how do you see infrastructure in cities changing to accommodate smart transportation or particularly autonomous vehicles?
There are going to be huge implications. I mean, obviously, even the design of the vehicle itself might change. So might not need as wide lanes as we have now. The signals, we might not need signals, the same signals we have now, if there's communication between the traffic control device and the vehicle itself. There could be means to build in the infrastructure intelligence so that there's some support from the infrastructure to the vehicle. So if something goes wrong on the vehicle, there is a backup on the infrastructure side. The shape of the stop signs and so on, there might be a way to make it easier for an autonomous vehicle to recognize the traffic control devices. But another challenge is that this transition is not going to happen in a day. So there will be a very long period where you would have a mix, what we call traffic mix, between some vehicles that are human-driven, some vehicles are fully autonomous, some vehicles are somewhere in between. They have level 2 or level 3 automation in them, which is like a mix between human and full automation. And then you have the whole mix interacting with one another. That is a real challenge, and it needs a lot of research, a lot of data to understand how to manage the system in that, what we call the evolutionary path toward a fully autonomous system in that sense. And that's really where there's going to be so much need for big data research. Big data, as we've touched upon in many, in our previous discussion, you could use it to train AI algorithms, for example, machine learning. There's going to be a lot of data to try to learn how to drive and so on. And where can you get all this data, how we can fuse it together, the fusion from the sensors. Very exciting opportunities for research.
One of the things you should realize that it is very costly to change infrastructure. There are signals in certain cities which might be controlled by a controller which is like 20 years old, or even the first generation controllers. So if you expect these cities to change their infrastructure, that would be a very costly process for the cities, and it is very difficult to do. And even something like putting DSRC radios on signalized intersection, which was a very big thing in connected autonomy, but where's the money coming from? Do we tax people to do that? Because you can easily charge a person for a feature in a car. When you say that, okay, your car won't depart the lane, are you willing to pay an extra $200? Some of the people are willing to pay for that luxury. If I say that I want to have your signal communicate with your car, are you willing to pay another $200 to put that device, or another 2 cents to put that device? That's a different question altogether. That's a policy question. And some people might be willing to, and some people might not be willing to. It takes huge amount of money to build new infrastructure. So whatever we have to do, that is one of the other challenges with the self-driving cars would face, is whatever you have to do, you have to assume that infrastructure can only provide you limited help. You can, when your cost to benefit, or you are willing to pay for it. Maybe insurance company might be willing to pay for some of these things because they think less insurance claims would be made. How do you fund this infrastructure is a bigger question than whether the infrastructure can improve autonomy or not. And funding is a much more difficult problem to solve, because we know if we can assign 1 lane to autonomous vehicles, that's the perfect solution. No one enters that. This is 100% autonomy lane. But even with HOV lanes, it was a big debate that you don't see any vehicle on that lane, but there are 1,500 vehicles stuck in this lane. How do you justify that? And there's equity. Again, policy becomes a nightmare sometimes.
Definitely, Anuj, you're absolutely right. I mean, the key would be to try to find ways to take advantage of automation to reduce the cost of the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So if, we manage to implement this idea of mobility as a service, that would have a huge implication. You reduce the number of vehicles on the roads, you reduce the need for building new infrastructure. If you can reduce the width of the lane, you reduce the cost. If you could reduce the headway between the vehicles in a safe way, that would would increase your capacity, and hence would reduce the need for new infrastructure. So it all would depends how these systems are going to evolve. As Anuj mentioned, is it going to increase vehicle miles traveled or going to encourage more driving and so on? That wouldn't be very sustainable and wouldn't be a desired result. But if they can be used to augment the system and make it more integrated, smarter, and reduce the cost and make it more sustainable, that's really what everybody would be hoping for.